This morning I was asked to speak to this. We talk a lot in deep coherence technique, quite rightly so. We talk a lot about being grounded. We talk a lot about being connected to the earth. And that's really important to have that gravitas. But it's time to talk a little bit about to be as light as a feather. Because this part can feel quite abstract. What does it mean that I go skipping through life, Pollyanna, not a care in the world? No, it doesn't mean that at all. It's actually a very pragmatic idea. What the feather represents, yes, is a lightness of spirit. But if you break it down into the mechanics, what this feather represents is that your electromagnetic field, your totality, the body, politic, you, are clear. You're clear and able to flow with life. It doesn't mean you control life, and it doesn't mean that life controls you. It means that you float like a boat, a canoe on the river. You go with the flow, and it's light. So you've got fluidity, you've got movement. So what can weigh us down? What represents friction? Well, a few things. One of which could be a bunch of programs that you unconsciously run, that you've always run, that you learned in childhood, that come through your lineage, that's part of your culture and society and family. And you run it unconsciously, and it impacts your life. It's autopilot, and it produces the same outcome. You do the same thing, different day, same outcome. Another thing is a trauma or a blockage or an attachment. Trauma is self-explanatory. It's something that happens beyond your control, that lodges in there if we don't pay attention and don't release it. Friction is when we resist what life is telling us. We resist it. There's a lot of things that can cause friction. And attachments can be to people, places, things. So you allow somebody or something or somewhere to impact your electromagnetic field, which means that you allow them, whatever it is, to influence your life. So DCT is about getting in touch with what's going on inside of you and clearing it. And how you clear it is by becoming aware of it. That's lucidity. And then what you're asked to do is intuitively find a way to release whatever it is that is causing that issue, which slowing down is a heaviness, is a weightedness, is friction. That's what the feather means. So, whenever I start this technique, I always just hold these two things and just get a sense of them in myself. Now, one of the most common things that most of us are entrained to have as a blockage or a friction, cause of friction, is our attitude towards value expressed as money, what we get paid, what we charge for, what we think we're worth. All of those things get given to us through childhood, those values, those concepts around money exchange, energy, time, management, all of those things, all lumped together. And what I heard this morning very, very clearly is that what Om is about, it's very practical as a modality. A part of what it's about is what the Nine called the Commonwealth. That's the Commonwealth, and they spelled it WHEALTH. So wealth, but health. And they shared with me that that when we're clear, when we come into totality, when we're clear and unified and coherent, then it's going to be easier to find those pockets, to find those blockages, to find those problems, to find those challenges that we have. And let's just use the example of money. Around money, it'll become clear to you, because you receive what you signal. So your life is the receipt. So if you look at the receipt and you don't like what's on there, you don't like the bill, you don't like the items, then we don't throw that receipt away. We don't blame ourselves, but we keep the receipt and we say, right, what is it that I'm willing to pay for? What is it that I'm willing to invest in? What is it that I'm willing to receive? What's my value? And the quantum field, the world, your life, people, places, things, all of that stuff that's outside of you is going to show you. Once you become aware of it, through DCT, through self-awareness, through whatever mindful practice you're doing, when you become aware of it, you can't not become aware of it. It's in the room. It's the elephant in the room. And you've got to deal with it. Because ignoring it is no longer an option. So, for me, and in conversations that I've had recently with a lot of people in my life that I care very deeply about, what has come up is value, my value, your value, what you think it's worth, what you think your time is worth, what you think your gifts are worth. And what Om is asking us to do is look at the truth of what is behind the challenges, the blockages, the attachments, the programs, all of the distortions that we run around our life force energy, which is expressed through the material world as our work, our job, what we charge, what we pay, what we pay for. So the 9 invited me this morning to look at the receipt of my life. Don't throw it away. Don't ignore it. Don't go, oh, in the bin. Don't want to deal with that. Look at your life. Look at where your time is spent. Look at how you value yourself. Primarily, this is about your commonwealth. Your health, your totality, your vitality, your time, your gifts. And we're invited to be as light as a feather. So we don't hold on to things. We release and we trust and we run. And that's what we're doing. Yes, it's a beautiful, mindful technique. Yes, it makes you feel calm and grounded, and that's a lovely thing. That is no small thing. But there's so much more going on here. There's so much more going on with our beingness. And so few of us really understand how it runs. Because we're not taught. But we know what we feel. We know what we're resonating. We know what we're attracting. That's your modality right there. And what the 9 invited me to do today, and I'm sharing it with you, the message, because I think it does relate to everybody, is live free, be light, don't attach to anything, but know your value. Own your value, own your gifts, because they're God-given. They are not granted to you. They're not certified by an outside authority. They are yours. So check out the receipt of your life today and spend some time just sitting with it. Now, DCT will help clear that out too. It's not all about heavy lifting and analyzing everything. We can come into coherence, and coherence will naturally bring these things up. They're unavoidable anyway. But this is a more easeful way of living. It's a joyful way to live. But it's also grounded. It's grounded in reality. We live in a material world. And so we pay attention. We pay attention to the commonwealth. That's the totality of who you are. And we bless our day, we bless our efforts, and we bless our time, because we live purposefully. And we command our space. And eventually, those receipts are going to reflect that. Those receipts are going to change. And that's your proof, positive, that you're doing this work for you. Now, I'm going to tell you, primarily that was a big lesson for me to hear. That was a big one for me. So I'm sharing it with you. What came in yesterday is a theme. It's the theme of value. Okay, so whatever you really think about yourself, whatever you really feel about yourself as programmed by your childhood, by your environment, by your culture, by your society, by your family, etc., fill in the blanks, by an ex-partner, all of these things can have leave an imprint. Those belief systems, those thoughts are they're unavoidable. They're in your face. It's like, yep, okay, I can see. It's like the blinkers have been taken off, the filters are being removed, and you're seeing in the clear light of day what it is that needs to be done. And that's intentional. That is intentional. And we are seeing now the beginning, the evidence in our world of people moving into quite extremes. Like, I think there are different ways of handling this kind of experience. And some of us, by the grace of God, we can do a practice, we can ground, we can think, we can process, but there are people that don't have any way of understanding what's happening to them. They just feel extremes. So yesterday we talked about value. We talked about your time, the value that you place on what you do, the gifts that you bring to this planet. And what I'd like to do is continue that, because I think it's really important. And this is what came through this morning. There's such a disconnect between our external reality and what's happening inside, and what we're being invited to do now, because we are witnessing everything that we're feeling about ourselves being mirrored outside. It's inescapable, unavoidable, it's undeniable. It's coming at us with headlights on. We're being invited to reconcile the gap between out there and in here. Now, there are many ways we can do that. I personally believe DCT is one of those ways. I think bringing coherence into that inner outer world, so within, so without, it's a basic metaphysical principle. It's a no-brainer. The more we spend on inside work, the more we're going to see it manifested in the material world. But we also live in a free will zone, planet of choice. We also live with other beings, humans, that have the right to do whatever they want, the right to believe whatever they want, the right to interact however they want, behave. And so the exterior world isn't exactly an exact representation of who we are. There are other players. It's a multiplayer zone. And these are the risks that, we took on. We ticked all those boxes before we entered. They're calling it entry point, incarnated. So we didn't come in here without that awareness. So the point that I'm getting at is that the exterior world, yes, mirrors a lot of who you are and what you need to figure out and what you're putting out there. But we walk with a very grounded awareness that the collective also informs the systems that we live in. So the monetary system at the moment seems to reward the idea of scarcity, competition. I've got to drive, I've got to grind, I've got to lean in, I've got to do this, that, and the other. And we're moving away from that model, but there are still a lot of people invested in it. So as way showers, we are going to be patterning out a new way of trading with each other, of sharing our gifts. And it starts with a very real evaluation of what your gifts are, what your talents and abilities are worth. And then I'm going to invite you to not delay putting out there what you know to be true. In other words, we're being asked not to be perfectionists. We're being asked not to have every, T crossed and every I dotted. It's a very dynamic time that we're living in. And so as we come into deeper coherence, as we begin to get comfortable with what we're signaling and receiving, as it becomes more consistent, more coherent, more regular, you're just going to find that you waveform out in such a manner that it's not that those not great actors and players out there won't know that you're around. They just won't want to be around you. Your waves won't attract them. So Omnism is, the 9 are very focused on the human life, the humanness, the material world, the elemental. They're very focused on sometimes it can feel the messy stuff, the emotional stuff, the shadow stuff, right? The trauma, the triggers. We've spent thousands of years trying to get around all that messy stuff, and we can't anymore. We're dealing with it. We're being the adults in the room. And we're wave forming and wave showing that, playing it forward. So So notice what you notice. Notice, again, go back to the life receipt. Your life right now is showing you in real time, what it is you believe about yourself, what it is you feel your worth is, all of those things. And it's time for those things to be moved through, to be shaken up, to be integrated. I mean, you are here to be yourself. No one's going to give you a formula to be you. You have to play you. I play me. I do me. You do you. So it's coming into a space where it doesn't have to be perfect. You just get comfortable in what you believe about yourself and what you don't. You just get comfortable. And then the more comfortable you get, the more grounded you get, the more you begin to naturally waveform out in such a manner that the receipts begin, they synchronize with what's going on inside. There's no, oh my God, put my glasses on, what's going on with this? No, it's, yep. And in the end, you don't even have to audit, analyze, process, think about your life, because your life begins to flow. Now, I believe sincerely that DCT, amongst other practices, are a part of that. And the more we do it, the more we're going to find that no matter what life conjures up for us in terms of just life, we're going to find that we impact our environment differently as opposed to reacting like we did in the past. Because when you react, it means that what's out there has more power than what's in here, and that is not the case. So when we impact, we receive the outside, we regard the outside, we look at it, and then we impact. We waveform and impact. These are the mechanics. These are the mechanics of Omnism. It's a pragmatic movement, lifestyle, modality, non-denominational. You can believe what you want, but it gives you the protocols, it gives you the laws, the principles through which to live your unique life.